One day while working on settlements, Preston Garvey tells us that something's going on at the castle.
Apparently the castle's been trying to get you on the radio. Some kind of situation over there. Better go see what's going on.
And with that, we begin the quest, Old Guns. Tuning to Radio Freedom.
This message is for the General if you're listening. We have a situation at the castle that we could use your help with. Nothing serious, just... Hey, you can't do that!
Listen up, General. Get your hiney over to the castle, pronto. This is Ronnie Shaw. You never heard of me, but you'll want to talk to me. All right, don't get your panties in a bunch. You can have your precious mic back.
Okay, yeah. Well, sorry about that, folks.
Ronnie Shaw? Well, we gotta head over to the castle. We find her patrolling the castle grounds. She's wearing military fatigues, a beret, and holding a laser rifle. Who is this lady?
Hey.
There you are. Finally. I've been waiting to talk to you.
What do you want?
I want to talk to whoever's in charge around here. Since nobody else would fess up to it, guess it must be you.
You forgot to make an appointment.
Ah, what's smart mouth, eh?
Lady, I really don't want to talk to you.
I don't much care what you want to do, but I want to talk to you, so you're gonna listen.
Actually, I'm not.
Not a great first impression for somebody trying to help your sorry butt.
Get on with it then.
Don't get testy with me, Sonny. I was field stripping laser muskets when you were still in diapers.
I seriously doubt that. But please, get to the point.
Something about you I don't get. Like, you're from somewhere else.
Call me Sonny again and you'll find out exactly how far I can shove my boot up your ass.
Ooh, so you do have a backbone. Good. I wouldn't fight for anyone who lets me push him around.
I get it, you're a hard-ass combat veteran. So am I. Can we move on?
Sure thing, General.
I'm listening.
Finally. I'm Ronnie Shaw, Commonwealth Minutemen. At least I was.
You must be Ronnie Shaw, from the radio.
Who else would I be? Can't mistake me for one of those pups you got running things around here. Yeah, I used to be with the Minutemen myself.
Are you saying you were a Minuteman?
Yeah, I was. Back before Joe Becker got himself killed and the Idiots took over.
I don't like what you're implying.
Easy there, cowboy. Joe Becker died years before you came along. I'm talking about the gang of clowns that let the Minutemen fall apart. I didn't respect any of them, so I took a vacation.
Joe Becker? Who's that?
That's just sad. General Becker used to run the Minutemen, the last real leader we ever had. After he died, there wasn't anybody left with the guts and brains to pull things together.
Glad to meet you. We can use some more veterans around here.
Well, you're right about that. I feel like some of these you've got still may need their diapers changed.
At this point, we have a number of options that continue the conversation. But if we question that she could ever have been a Minuteman...
You were a Minuteman?
What? You don't think an old broad like me can fight? I could kick your butt, punk.
We find three options that calm her down a bit.
I don't have time for a dick measuring contest. What do you actually want?
I'm not sure who'd win that, actually.
You kiss your mother with that mouth? At least you're finally ready to get down to business.
Easy. I just didn't know there were any other Minutemen out there.
Ronnie Shaw, huh? Must have been before my time. Sorry.
Yeah, I did take a pretty long vacation after Joe died. Not surprised you never heard of me.
If you're a Minuteman, how come Preston never told me about you?
Sorry, General. I never knew everybody. She must have left the Minutemen before I joined up.
Garvey? Oh, yeah, I heard of him. Took over Hollis's group after the Quincy massacre. One of the good ones. Well, I've been gone a while. I guess even if he knew who I was, he figured I wasn't coming back. I never thought I would either.
Or we can brawl.
I'd like to see you try.
Come on, for real? You're gonna fight her?
Let's get this over with.
With that, Ronnie Shaw fights us. Our guns are immediately unequipped if we had them equipped, and we have to engage her in a bout of bare-knuckle boxing. If we lose the fight, she says...
Ready to talk to me?
But if we win the fight, she says...
You
General,
know how to throw a
do you have a
punch,
minute?
I'll give you that. Now, maybe we can talk.
Either way, we get the same dialogue options that advance us to the next dialogue tree.
Get to the point.
I've been trying to.
I'm still waiting for you to tell me what you want. What do you actually want?
I'd still like to hear what you came to talk to me about.
Heard you were trying to get the Minutemen back on their feet. Thought I'd come see the new general for myself. So what's your story? What makes you think anybody even wants the Minutemen back?
At least we're trying to help people. Can you say the same?
Don't give me any attitude, Sonny. I've been a Minuteman longer than you've been alive.
I don't need to answer to you, soldier.
You don't get a pass just because everybody calls you General. In the Minutemen, you gotta earn respect.
The Minutemen are the good guys again. People are starting to realize that. The Commonwealth needs the Minutemen. People are starting to realize that.
I've heard some good things. Wouldn't be here otherwise. Now that I'm here, I can see you really need my help.
We could probably find a use for you. We can always use more experienced soldiers.
Yeah, you're not kidding. But I had something more specific in mind.
Are you offering to rejoin?
I guess I am. But first things first.
We were doing just fine without your help.
Really? I guess you know all about the castle's old armory then.
How would you know about an old armory?
I used to be stationed here, that's how. For a few years, right after I joined up. Just dumb luck I was home on leave the day the Lurks wiped this place out.
First I've heard of it.
I'm not surprised. It's been almost 50 years since this place was wiped out. I'm probably the last person alive who remembers how it was. The castle's armory was located over there, in the West Bastion.
You could have told me about that first thing.
I hauled my hiney all the way over here to do you a favor. Least you could do is listen politely.
I'd like to hear about the armory.
Ah, so polite now that I've got something you want, huh? Typical. I'm probably the only one who still remembers this. But the castle's armory was located in the West Bastion. All of our best equipment was stored in there. Weapons, ammo, schematics, you name it. Come on, I'll show
General,
you.
do you have a minute?
Ignoring Preston's companion affinity interruptions for a moment, we can follow Ronnie Shaw towards the West Bastion. There we find a large metal door on a hinge, sealing an entrance.
Ah, good. Looks like it might still be intact. Door's still sealed. Bastion hasn't collapsed. Trick now is finding a way in.
Do you know some way to open this door?
No. And even if we could blast it open, we'd probably destroy what's inside while we're at it.
Easier said than done.
Don't worry. I've got an idea.
I don't see how we're getting through that door.
Don't give up so quick.
I hope you have an idea.
Of course I do. If you can't go through, go around. Let's have a look at the Northeast Bastion.
Ronnie Shaw pivots and takes us towards the Northeast Bastion. Into the corridors, past the chemist station, she leads us into the General's chamber.
This was the General's quarters. Used to be a tunnel leading from here to the armory. This tunnel's blocked by this rubble. We'll have to find some way to clear it.
And with that, she walks away. All right, no suggestions from Ronnie Shaw. Guess we're gonna have to figure this out on our own. Well, there just so happens to be a missile launcher with missiles lying on this table. Perhaps that's a sign.
Hey,
I didn't bring any explosives, but I sure as heck hope you got some handy. Come on, General. You must have some way to clear this rubble.
A sign which seems to be confirmed by Ronnie. Explosives. So grabbing the missile launcher.
What are you shooting at?
Oh, well, Preston didn't like that. And it didn't work. Explosives are no use here. Instead, we have to open up the settlement building system and magically scrap this big pile of rubble.
Let's get down there and see if there's still a way through.
With that, Ronnie hops back up and leads us down a staircase to a door that opens into the castle tunnels. Once in the tunnels, we learn that Ronnie wants us to take point.
I'll back you up, General. My night vision ain't what it used to be.
The tunnels are a tiny labyrinth. Lots of twists and turns, but they all lead to one destination. The big thing we have to worry about while exploring this are the mines. They're dotted all over the place. In a northern room, we find a chamber to the east that appears to be filled with gas. To avoid an explosive event while we're inside it, we can detonate the gas from distance.
Darn it!
Sorry, Ronnie. I don't understand why they took damage. They were standing right next to me and I didn't take damage. Anyway, moving into that room, we see that it's filled with cannonballs and cement. One of the few locations where we can find cannonballs for the broadsider. But it's a dead end, so we need to continue west. We find more rooms, dotted with more mines, and then eventually a turret. Then we find a storage room with more mines we need to disarm, some fusion cells, a laser musket, and some junk. This leads to another mined room with a fusion generator inside. Sadly, we can't use this generator to power our settlement, but at least we can take the fusion core. Nearby, we find a chemistry station, which sadly doesn't connect to our settlement's workshop, and a shelf covered in chems. In the next room, we loot more mines until we arrive in a storage room and hear an ominous voice.
Movement detected. Sentry bot designation Sarge. Powering up.
Well, I'll be. I would have never guessed the Sarge would still be down here. Don't worry, it's one of ours.
Error. File corruption detected. Initiating.
Let's turn this rolling junkie into scrap.
He's on the bridge.
Don't worry, she says. Somehow over the past 50 years or so, its data got corrupted, and we now have to destroy Sarge.
Hostiles in area.
That Sarge was haywire. He's been guarding the castle since, forever, as far as I know.
Well, if only he had been guarding the castle upstairs. You know, when the Mirelurks attacked all those years ago, maybe things would have gone differently for the Minutemen, but no, they decided to keep him in the tunnels, where attacks typically come from. At any rate, Ronnie Shaw marches off into the next room. We see that this room was a barracks. We find a few containers, and then Ronnie stops in front of a terminal.
Let's see. I used to know this password. One if by land. Nah, that's not it. For the Commonwealth. Darn it. Oh, it's been a long time. United we stand. Yeah, that was it.
The security door swings open, and we enter a room flooded with light from some spotlights. Lying next to a desk is a corpse holding a bottle of wine.
That explains all the landmines. This was General McGann. He had your job back when I first joined up. Must have gotten trapped down here when that sea beast attacked the castle. He did manage to keep the armory secure. I'll give him that much. Guess the uniform is yours now, if you want it. This old geezer doesn't need it anymore. Rest in peace, General. Your fight is done, and the Minutemen live on. There's no point in getting all sentimental about something that happened 40 years ago. Come on, we're almost through.
On the body of General McGann are 100 plasma cartridges, a short laser musket, and 2 unique items, the Minuteman General's hat and the Minuteman General's uniform. The Minuteman's hat is a unique tricorn that grants 1 charisma. Hancock's tricorn is a slightly different shape than this one. The only other one that looks like this is the pirate hat that we can get from the Far Harbor DLC. The Minuteman General's uniform is a full-body armor piece, granting us 45 damage resistance, 80 energy resistance, and also +1 to charisma. If we wear these items as the General of the Minutemen, it'll increase our charisma by 2 and consequently raise our settler cap for every single Minuteman settlement. So we need to bear that in mind if we've already made happiness calculations for all of our settlements. If the beacons at each settlement are still active, we could still recruit more settlers, and then we'd have to alter our settlements to get back up to 100 happiness. Sadly, since the uniform takes up all armor slots, it can't be imbued with ballistic weave. So what we see is what we've got. This is in contrast to the Minuteman outfit, which can accept ballistic weave. And not only that, but it can be worn underneath other armor. So while this general's uniform is better right now, the Minuteman outfit has the potential to be better when fully upgraded with ballistic weave and when other armor is worn on top of it. On the desk is a security terminal. From here we can access the security door and read user logs. Inside we find 3 entries. In the first, attacked in the night. Last night about 0200 I was woken up by a crash that shook the whole castle. Lieutenant Foster reported that some huge creature had breached the western wall. I sent him to radio for reinforcements while I used the tunnels to lock down the armory. Shortly after that, a second crash caved in the only other exit from the tunnel. The only thing I can think of large enough to do that kind of damage is a behemoth, and if super mutants have taken the courtyard, I can't risk the artillery falling into their hands. All I can do for now is set up defenses and wait for someone to dig me out. Well, that could potentially explain why they had Sarge down here, to guard the armory from the super mutants. Though why Sarge wasn't patrolling upstairs before the attack is still a mystery. And the next one bolstered my position. It's now clear that we must have lost the battle. I've heard something pounding on the armory door, but the walls will fall in before that door gives way. In case they attempt to clear the rubble from my quarters, I've set up all the defenses that were left down here. I don't like to think about super mutants using our artillery against helpless settlements. I'm running low on water, but I still hope that the survivors will regroup and mount a counterattack in time. Lastly, final entry. This will likely be my final entry. My supplies have all run out, and I've given up hope that rescue is coming. The only thing left is an old case of wine I found. I know it will only make the dehydration worse, but at this point, I'd rather meet my fate with a toast. General McGann, Commonwealth Minutemen. Turning around, we see a partially collapsed wall. There's a plaque just outside of it, which can't be interacted with, and through the hole in the wall, we see a skeleton shackled to the interior wall. This, and the big box of Amontadillo wine that was next to General McCann's body, is a reference to the 1846 short story by Edgar Allan Poe called The Cask of Amontadillo. In that story, a man seeks revenge on his rival by finding him drunk in the streets, then luring him into the catacombs beneath his own home where he stored wine, promising to let him sample his new cask of Amontadillo wine. He lures the drunken man into a hole in his wall, shackles him to the wall, and then slowly repairs the hole in the wall with bricks and mortar. The man sobers up in time to see what's going on, but ultimately, he's sealed up alive, where he starves to death in that confined space. When done, we can leave the tunnels by opening the door back out into the West Bastion. We can then follow Ronnie upstairs.
The old castle is starting to shape up, eh?
Okay, here we are. Let's see if this still opens from here.
She pushes a button by a nearby wall, which is still powered, and the hinged door swings open.
There we go. Told you I'd get us in here. Now, let's see what kinds of goodies are left.
Giving us access to the armory. She walks us towards the armory, which we find completely intact.
Excellent. The armory's still intact. Everything we need, just waiting for us. And the cream of the crop, schematics for building artillery.
Artillery?
Great big guns. Blow up our enemies from miles away. Any of this ringing a bell?
Well, let's see if it was worth the effort.
General, when you see those shells raining down on our enemies, well, you'll know it was worth it.
All this for a pile of musty papers? You've got to be kidding.
Hey, you're smarter than that. Those musty old papers are going to help us take the Commonwealth back.
I have to admit, Ronnie, having artillery would help out quite a bit.
Oh, we used to rain down fire on Deathclaws and super mutants alike. It was a glorious thing. All right, grab that schematic and let's get going. Don't forget to grab some smoke grenades, too.
She walks off, and we can grab the artillery schematics lying on the table. We can also grab some artillery supplies lying nearby, and loot the artillery smoke grenades in the ammo box on a nearby shelf. Before leaving, we can explore this room. It has a weapons workbench and an armor workbench, which is great for characters like mine who can't build them in settlements. We also find a laser musket 4-crank capacitor mod on a table in the middle of the room, as well as a laser musket beam splitter mod and a medium scope mod on a table next to the weapons workbench. Great for characters who want to upgrade their laser musket but don't have the appropriate perks as part of their build. And the armory is chocked full of goodies. Baseball grenades, fragmentation grenades, frag mines, water, stealth boys, a Fat Man launcher, mini nukes, ammunition, 3 laser muskets, great for giving to our Minutemen guards here at the settlement, and best of all, in my opinion, 3 laser turrets. We can build these in our settlement, but only after unlocking them through perks, which again might not be in our build. But with these lying here, we can use them even if we haven't unlocked the appropriate perks. And the laser turret is one of the best turrets for settlement defense. They have incredible range, they fire really quickly, and they deal a devastating amount of damage. The only drawback compared to regular machine gun turrets is you do have to power them with electricity. And if power goes out at the castle, these turrets stop working. But as long as we protect our settlement generators, they should continue to fire unless they each individually get destroyed. But we've got artillery to build. So following Ronnie Shaw, she leads us into the middle of the courtyard.
Hi.
Looks like you've got everything we need. As soon as you get some artillery built, we'll do a test fire to calibrate it.
Sounds like that's our task. And we see that artillery had at one time been built here at the castle. On top of each bastion is a little impression that's custom made for artillery. If we have enough resources, we could place an artillery cannon on each of these bastions. But for today's test, we'll scrap this old one and just place one down. Each artillery piece produces 6 settlement defense, but we do have to individually assign a settler to it in order to benefit from that defense. Placing it down without assigning a settler to it doesn't increase settlement defense. Once a settler is assigned, he walks over and takes the artillery in hand. And once done, we're ready for a test. Heading back to Ronnie.
Gosh darn, it's good to see artillery here again. So here's the thing about the big guns. They can't fire at anything too close, but their range is impressive. That's what the smoke grenades are for. Toss one of those at the bad guys. If we have artillery in range, we'll confirm over the radio and target our fire on your smoke. But first, we better do a test fire. Make sure we're hitting what we're aiming at.
We need to summon down an artillery strike using the artillery flares we looted from the ammo box in the armory. Examining the artillery smoke grenades in our inventory, we see that it has the same skin as the Brotherhood's vertibird signal grenades, only it's blue, though it still says piece of flare, an Office Space reference.
You see that little building over there? We'll use that for our aiming point. Keep your radio on and tuned to Radio Freedom so we can confirm we're ready.
The building we are going to attack for this test is the same building where we met Preston and the 3 other Minutemen when we first raided the castle. Tuning to Radio Freedom, we can approach the test site.
All right, General, if you can hear me, we're ready. Toss one of those smoke grenades into the target area and we'll start the test fire.
Getting close, we can toss a flare. And we see a pillar of blue smoke rise from the ruins.
Okay, we've got your smoke on the target. You might want to stand back. Yeah, just in case.
And here's what I think is really cool about this. The individual guards assigned to the individual artillery cannons manually crank them to physically turn them towards the direction where we threw the smoke grenade. And this will happen at any settlement where we place artillery. Their range is impressive, but it's not infinite. In order to call down an artillery strike anywhere in the Commonwealth, we really need to have artillery either at every settlement or at least in a settlement that covers each particular region of the Commonwealth. In short, the more settlements have artillery, the more likely we'll be able to call down a strike wherever we are. And with that, the artillery fires. Shells rain down on our target. And these aren't just scripted explosions. They don't appear out of nothing and then drop down on our target. We can see the shells physically leave the barrels of the artillery cannons. We can see them arc through the sky and land on our target. The details and thought that went into this weapon are really impressive. Now we see with this test that the artillery shells land in a pretty tight grouping, but they don't always land on exactly the same spot. And from my testing, the grouping isn't always as tight as we see here, but we'll get into that in a minute.
That looked good from here. You've now got artillery support. Use it.
I gotta hand it to you, General. You've really turned things around for the Minutemen. I never thought I'd see the day that the Minutemen had artillery support again. We should see about building them at all our settlements to expand our coverage. And Ronnie Shaw returns. She's something else, isn't she?
What do you think of her?
People like her. She comes across pretty hard-ass. but she's one of the good ones.
Something like a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, she definitely knows how to take charge.
Ha, that's a bit of an understatement from what I hear.
She's the only one left who remembers when the castle was Minutemen HQ. She knew about the old armory.
I'd heard stories about her from the old timers, but I didn't know she was still around. The fact that she's come back to the Minutemen means we must be doing something right. I'll let you know if I hear of any settlements that need our help. In the meantime, make sure to offer help to anyone that needs it. That can only help our cause.
The yellow box where we first got these in the armory will periodically refill with new smoke grenades. Ronnie Shaw sticks around as a settlement member, and she becomes a merchant.
Now that we have the armory back, you can resupply here whenever you run low on supplies. Anything you need right now?
Anything to report?
Nothing you need to worry about. We'll hold this place for the Minutemen as long as any of us are still breathing. Now, did you need anything or not?
Let me see what you've got.
Take a look.
She sells a huge selection of weapons and ammo, a great way to outfit our Minutemen guards for settlement defense. As cool as the artillery cannons are, their practical use is questionable. And the reason for that is due to how combat works in the game. When you initiate combat with an enemy, they immediately start to hunt for you. Even if they don't see you, as long as the caution meter is on, they'll sort of walk in your general direction. But the nature of the artillery strike is to target a static location, presuming that the target will stay within that location. And that's just not how it works. To demonstrate, I went to Carhenge, where we find a lumbering behemoth. He's a solitary, rather large target, which you'd think would be perfect for testing out artillery. Upon throwing the smoke grenade, any enemy in the vicinity will see it as a combat engagement event. Even if we throw the grenade from stealth, using a stealth boy, our caution meter will turn on, which means the enemy will start walking around looking for us, which means they often walk outside of the artillery strike location. This was the case with the behemoth. The artillery strike did 0 damage to it, because as soon as the first one hit, he just walked away from it. He began hunting for me, somehow knowing where I was, despite the fact that I was in stealth. I tried this a number of times, from different locations. Even if I managed to get hidden before the shells came down, once he took a little bit of damage, the caution meter flipped on again, and he once again started to walk straight for me. I even tried this from on top of the overpass, a location that the behemoth couldn't even get to, where there was no way he could possibly see me, and the exact same thing happened. As soon as the caution meter turned on, he started ambling straight for me. So in order to do damage with this thing, we just have to be lucky. We have to be lucky that the sandboxing enemy will just so happen to be standing right under the location where the first shell drops. And if he survives, we just have to be lucky that while he is walking around looking for us, he'll wander into the other shells when they come down. It was so incredibly frustrating watching this awesome artillery strike happen right where the super mutant behemoth was, only to see him not take any damage because he was under the overpass I was standing on looking for me, even though there was no way he could possibly know that I was there. The artillery strikes might be more useful for encounters where sandboxing is limited. Libertalia, for example, might be a better place to try this, where the raiders are stuck on the ship, and it's impossible for them to leave the ship. Despite its impracticality for actual use in combat, it's a fun little feature. And who knows? Perhaps it'll come in handy later on. And so I went to each and every one of my settlements and built artillery platforms using the concrete structures from the Wasteland Workshop DLC, whereupon I placed my artillery, ensuring that the Minutemen can call down artillery strikes anywhere in the Commonwealth. With that, the Minutemen are fully armed. We just need to grow large enough to rival any aggressive factions. In our next episode, we'll continue to build the Minutemen by answering the calls of everyday settlers in the Wasteland and uncover some more of their unique stories. I publish new videos each and every week on my channel, so if you don't want to miss that episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you like what I do and you want to support me, you can become a member here on YouTube, a patron on Patreon, or you can purchase some of my merch, like my plush and my shirt designs. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with the next episode in the full story of the Minutemen.
Freedom, the voice of the Minutemen. Nothing to report. Keep it tuned here for updates.